What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lockdown Defense Sports Network. I am your host for today's episode of the Lightning Lockdown preview/review show we do here on the channel. I am, of course, Robert Garcia, Young RG, and man, what a rough week it was, Chargers fans. The injuries continue to mount up. The O-line continues to not be able to block anybody, and Herbert continues to get all the blame for it. So we're going to dive into it a little bit, as much as we don't want to, with it, of course, being the review for this week. So, of course, welcome in, guys, to the Lightning Lockdown. So, Chargers fans, it was rough. We knew it pretty much since before the game, and then it started out great, and then there was a clear turning point in that game. And it was, of course, the Quentin Johnston fumble. QJ showing shades of his past 2-year self. Obviously, don't want to harp on it and say that this is what he does, but when that's what you've been known for, not being able to hold onto the ball, I get it wasn't a drop, but still, a fumble nonetheless. I will say, look back on that play, there was helmet to helmet on that tackle. That potentially should have been called, but whatever. Water under the bridge at this point. The game's over. It wouldn't have mattered in the long run, but it was a huge, huge turning point in the game. The Chargers, if QJ just holds on to that and falls down for that catch, the Chargers are in the red zone with first and 10 in the red zone, already up by 10, up 10-0. Easy chance to go up by 17-0 there with the way the offense was rolling, and really put a stranglehold on that Commanders team. Really force Jaden and that Commanders team into passing, because we know how dominant of a run game they possess. And with that turnover, Commanders are able to keep it close, able to still run that same offense they want to run, because they, wide receivers, Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown were both out. So you're going to try to run the ball, play smash mouth as much as you can to try to avoid Jaden potentially putting the ball in danger. And got to give credit to Jaden, man. He is an unbelievable quarterback. And even when he did need to push the ball down the field and he did need to make those throws, he came up with it. And, to his credit, like I said, a couple of starting wide receivers are gone, and he's still finding those, backups in. And Luke McCaffrey, man, I don't know what he is just a big play machine. He doesn't, flash in terms of consistency, but I just feel like every time or every week, Luke McCaffrey is making some kind of big play, whether it's a punt return, whether it's a giant, 50-yard catch going into halftime to, get some points on the board before that. He is just always in the right place in the right time. And it seems like when Jaden just needs a huge bailout, Luke McCaffrey is there. So, we get beat on that deep ball, so they get set up for some easy points there. And, we go into halftime tied 10-10 when really, and, that's not even to mention that, the blocked punt, not the blocked punt, but the roughing the punter call, in which Ladd McConkey returns it for a touchdown, which the worst part about that whole play was I saw it the minute that Marlowe Wax hit. I forgot who the punter's name is on the Commanders is. Is it Tress Way? No, man, I might be going back years for that one. But when Marlowe Wax made that hit, I knew immediately that they were going to call back whatever the return was. And so that's why it was so much more gut-wrenching to see how great of a return Ladd had and for it to all be for nothing. So there was just so many momentum-switching plays there that through self-infliction, we self-sabotage ourselves. Took away 7 points on that punt return. Took away at least 3 points with how automatic Cameron Dicker's been, at least 3 points with that QJ fumble, and, even more so than just the 3 points, all the momentum in that one play, the Commanders able to get back in that. There was just a lot that went wrong. And, obviously the final score, 27-10, we got blown out, but that game was so much more closer than it should have been. The Chargers, if they just don't make their stupid mistakes, like I said, fumbling the ball, Herbert, threw the pick on the goal line, and that was pretty much ball game. Blame him if you want, whatever. I honestly am not putting any blame on Herbert. I can't, not when this O-line is doing him these kinds of disservice. And even when we are getting into, oppositional territory, we're fumbling the ball, we're making stupid calls, stupid play calls, because that drive in which Herbert throws the pick on the goal line. It's first and goal at the 1, and you didn't. Why are we not running a QB sneak there? That is inexcusable. Your quarterback is 6'6". We've seen him run countless QB sneaks, and I can't remember the last time he ran one and he wasn't successful. I can remember countless ones we've ran with a tight end or another running back taking that handoff, but not Herbert. Herbert will get you that yard, and so it blew my mind that we went pass first in that situation after Kamani had just hit a nice run to the outside corner to put us into that first and goal situation on the 1. And man, it just felt like since that QJ fumble, the vibes for this team were just gone for the whole day. It just seems like everybody was out of it. The defense was falling asleep on certain plays. And, obviously give massive credit to the Commanders and to Jaden and to Dan Quinn, that coaching staff over there. But you just really felt like the Chargers left a lot of plays on the field. And this is what really was so annoying with previous Chargers regimes is we would beat ourselves and we would constantly come away from these games looking at like, man, if we don't shoot ourselves in the foot here, if, or we don't blow a lead here, like there was just always something that we could look back on as Chargers fans and the rest of the league would look at it as like, oh, well, you guys are just making excuses. And it's like, no, if you actually just watch the game and watch how it unfolded, you could clearly see when the changes were and when the shift in momentum was. And you know what? At the end of the day, I can't say much because we don't have that old coaching regime anymore. We have Harbaugh, we have Minter, we have Ortiz, and you just got to put the trust into the front office. And nobody can plan for losing both your tackles. That's just that's terrible luck. No team is losing their 3 best linemen because Becton was out, for that last game too, in the Giants game. No team is losing their 3 best O linemen, not making a trade to replace it, and still going to be running everything hunky-dory like nothing ever changed. That's just not going to happen. So, it is what it is. This was a long rant, but there was a lot to dive into with that game, as frustrating as it was. And, as Chargers fans, we kind of needed to talk about it a little bit. But with that all being said, it is a new week. We are on to week 6. Chargers are still 3-2, still atop the AFC West, despite all, these past 2 horrific weeks of football, probably the worst 2 weeks in the Harbaugh era, the short Harbaugh era we've had here with the Chargers. But let's dive into our next week's matchup. Like I mentioned, week 6, going to Miami. We're going to take on the Miami Dolphins. Tua, Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle, and Darren Waller, apparently, we are going to be entering their home and seeing if we can come out of there with a dub. Now, the Dolphins are not a great team. However, neither were the Giants and, the Commanders, although they are a good team. I don't think they were a great team. Jaden's coming off the injury. So, they were down a couple of starters on the offense. So really 3 weeks in a row here of very winnable games for the Chargers here. 3 games in a row that they are going to be favorited. They were favored in the Giants and the Commanders games. They are favored in this game here as well. Hopefully we can break that stigma of being the favorites and losing in horrific fashion. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully that defense, but let's dive into the injuries, of course, getting a little bit ahead of myself there. First pair of injuries that we're going to talk about are the did not practice participants, and that is going to go to the same 2 guys as last week. Darius Davis with his knee injury and Joe Alt nursing that ankle injury. Big update with Joe Alt, however, is out of the walking boots, so that is a huge sign. Huge step in the right direction for us and for him to get back on the field. Obviously, the Chargers are most likely going to be taking this very cautiously, seeing how horrible that O-line has been without him. You don't want this to be a case where you put him back in, and within that same week that he comes back to the lineup, he's out already again with a much worse injury. So definitely got to take it easy with all the season is still young. So we do still have a little bit of time. Going 3-0 to start in the division really saved us here because like I mentioned, we're still in first place following these 2 horrific losses. These 2 losses were both against NFC East opponents. So in the grand scheme of things, looking at it come playoff times, they really shouldn't mean that much. I mean, if you really look at it, in terms of the AFC playoff picture, The division wins and the conference wins are going to be the most important. And obviously, right now, the Chargers are 3-0 in the division and in the conference. This is going to be our 4th conference game of the year. So a chance to go 4-0 or to keep the perfection up in the conference. This is a must-needed win here for the Chargers. So definitely hoping we can get Alt back as soon as possible. Looking over on the limited participant side, Mekhi Becton, limited with his hand injury, came back last week, obviously out of a concussion protocol, left the game once again with that hand injury. So we're just hoping that it's a minor injury and he should be back. He is limited, so that is a good sign to show that he is still out there practicing in some kind of capacity. And the O-line truly needs it. So really hoping we can see him back out on the field for the whole game, preferably this week. And also the other limited participant, one of our many wide receivers, Quentin Johnston, with his hamstring injury that he sort of suffered in last week's game against the Commanders. I can't remember which play exactly it was on. I don't think it was on the play that he fumbled, but I remember there was a specific play afterwards where I saw him kind of limping towards the sideline. Hopefully he can be good, but I don't say this to like try to be mean or, obviously this is not saying it, but I say this in the sense that, with the wide receiver room that we have, it is the one position that I feel slightly more confident in the backups, to come in and perform. I think wide receiver and defensive back are probably our most depth-filled positions. So honestly, I saw someone throwing around the idea, we should trade Quentin Johnston right now for an O-lineman while his value is high. Kind of made me chuckle a little bit, but man, it really would not be the worst idea in the world. Like I said, considering the wide receivers we have kind of in the pipeline, he is young. You get a little bit of value for him, but obviously I feel like that would kind of just ruin the chemistry in the room. And, for what it's worth, Herbert has been a huge advocate for QJ since his rookie year. And, I don't think they would make that kind of a drastic move, especially when he's now finally having easily the best start to a season in his career. Now, moving ahead to the keys to victory for us. First and foremost for the offense, this is simple, man. We got to stop with these turnovers. We talked about it in the beginning of this episode, talking about the fumble that QJ had, the pick that Herbert threw last week. Even going a week before that against the Giants, we had the 2 picks that Herbert threw. Now, one of them really wasn't his fault. Tyler Conklin ran into Ladd McConkey, literally ran a pick play on his own wide receiver. So Herbert throws to where he's expecting Ladd to be, and there is just nobody there but a Giants defender. So that was the easiest pick of that Giants DB's career. And then, it is something that needs to be said. Herbert did kind of have this issue a little bit. I believe it was like year 2 or 3 of his career, where those balls at the line of scrimmage, man, he tries to fit in a lot of tight window, cannon throws. And those D linemen, man, they get their hands up quick. And if, all it takes is a unfortunate tip in the air for it to just kind of, when a ball goes in the air and it kind of just floating there, the entire stadium collectively takes a gasp, because that's like the most dangerous thing in football is just a falling, pillowy ball. And, so that is something that Herbert definitely has to kind of work on. But again, to his credit, the O-line has been atrocious. And so he has needed to try to make these superhuman plays. And it is, affecting his reads, affecting his timing in the system. He's obviously, constantly under pressure. And so finally, maybe he gets a series or a rep where he's not under pressure. He thinks he is. So, you quote the whole seeing ghost thing, but it's tough when you have that rough of an O-line. And Herbert has consistently been one of the best QBs against pressure in his career, but you're not beating D linemen winning 50% of their pass rushes. You're just not. If you're under pressure for half of the game, no QB is winning that. Ask Tom Brady. Ask any NFL great. They are not winning that game under pressure. And that's the best way to beat any of these big QBs, or big name QBs, I should say, is to send pressure, is to get pressure without having to sacrifice more people on the back end. Try to getting pressure with 4 or 5 guys. And, unfortunately, every team following these injuries to the O-line have been able to do that with ease. And so, it's really affected the offense as a whole. But I'm tired of constantly placing blame on the O-line. It's already just a moot point at this juncture. So we'll see what happens with that. But if we can try to keep this a clean game, I much rather love our chances in that route than what we've seen the last 2 weeks. For the defense, very simple. Focus on Achane and Waddle. Tua is really not a worry to me. He isn't mobile, and that is the biggest threat to these Jesse Minter defenses are mobile QBs. We saw that with Jaden. We saw it with Jackson Dart. Mahomes rushed for, I think it was like 60+ yards on us week 1. Geno, Bo, Bo is also a little bit mobile, but we were able to contain him a little bit more. But Geno, Tua, they're not mobile QBs. I feel much more confident with this defense kind of finding itself once again this week versus a non-mobile QB. And like I mentioned, Achane and Waddle, that's the offense right there. Darren Waller is definitely somebody we need to pay attention to as well, but I feel a little bit more confident in Minter being able to handle that. Also, another point to here is limiting the penalties. They have been absolutely atrocious for us these past 2 weeks. I think we're up to like 24 penalties, over 200 and something yards of penalty yards these past 2 weeks combined. Inexcusable. That is how you lose to lesser tier opponents, just giving them free yards and keeping free drives alive and taking points away from yourselves with stupid roughing the kicker calls. But stupid roughing the kicker plays. It was a legitimate call fully. Just stupid self-inflicted penalties. If we can limit those this week, again, I love our chances much more in this game than I do in previous weeks, just going up against this type of QB. And ultimately, it is going to have to be to make Tua beat you. If we can take away this run game and we force Tua to have to throw deep and have to use these receivers deep down the field, I'm sorry. I'm pretty, adamant on how I feel about Tua. I'm not scared of him. I'm not scared of the type of QB that he is. I think he has talent. I just don't think that he has enough talent to have him find constant success in this league. We've seen, bits and pieces of it. And then honestly, it's just the fact that it's the injury concern, man. I mean, Tua can't stay healthy. He's played one season where he's actually appeared in all 17 games for his team in the 6-year career. This is his 6th year. In a 6-year career that he's had. Maybe this year will be his 2nd full season. Who knows? He's 5 for 5 games, 5 for 5 on the year so far in terms of games he's played in. I don't know, man. I really feel like I'm beating a dead horse with all this, but that's all to say that I do think the Chargers will bounce back this week, get back into the win column following those 2 horrific losses. And the Chargers come away with a 27-17 victory. I just think the defense is going to be up and ready. These guys are pissed off at these last 2 weeks. Herbert's pissed off. Harbaugh should be pissed off. Honestly, this whole team, especially this O-line, I mean, these guys just got to get up and stop messing around, really. We need to look at Herbert and look at the example that he's setting and that he is leading by. And I get the injuries have been atrocious, but some of these guys are going to be coming back. Hampton, they will be coming back this year. Khalil Mack, he'll be coming back this year. So we will be getting some of these big pieces back. It's just a matter of, can we stay above water until they return? And honestly, the biggest one is just Joe Alt. If we can get our left tackle back, I feel much more confident in the rest of these games going forward than obviously if he's not here. So with that all being said, guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Be sure to check out all of the Hit Squad and their socials down below. Mike Dub, our Commanders Insider, Alex Gibbons, the Real AG, our Chiefs Insider, and of course myself, Young RG, the Chargers Insider. And also be sure to check out the Lockdown Defense Sports Network on all different social media platforms. We are on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and of course our Gmail. Comment down below, guys. Tell me what you think about the Chargers and their season so far. What are your predictions for this game? Tell me where I'm right. Tell me where I'm wrong. And we will see you guys in the next one. Once again, I want to thank you guys all for watching. Take care, everybody.